Good evening, hello, welcome. It is All for United WFC, and don't change the channel. No, Connor hasn't had a haircut. It is I, Barry, once again standing in for the man who has got serious man flu. So I should have been sat really where Jess is sat, but instead I'm not. So somebody's got to be in charge of these three absolute reprobates, and here they are. So we have got. Let's go clockwise. As ever, we have got Jess, usually on a Monday. Here she is on a Saturday. How are you doing, young Jess?
Yes, I am great, thank you. Been out at a party earlier. However, I was designated driver, so not great. But I did enjoy some free food, so, you've got to take what you can get during these times.
Absolutely. Although Tipsy Jess would have been a very interesting one as well. We're then going to go back round the other way, anti-clockwise. For Matt, who I've not seen in a ridiculous amount of time on this channel. How are you doing, young man?
I'm very well, yeah. It's been a while, actually. I can't think of the last show I did, but no, it's always nice to come on and chat about football. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, lovely to have you here as well. And the reason why we saved Meg for last is not necessarily to say we're the best for last, but because she's an Arsenal fan. So there'll be no booing of Megan this evening. So that's a wonderful thing. But Meg, how are you getting on?
Yes, all good. Yeah, after last night, I think, I'm not disappointed. So, yeah, I'm all good.
Excellent. Well, lots of people saying they're not disappointed. I don't know how the United fans will be feeling, other than myself and how I felt. But it was a heck of a game, that's for sure. Plenty of entertainment, plenty for the neutrals. But when the teams came out, Jess, I suppose we should get straight into it, really. Was you happy with the team selection? Did you think that Mark had made the right choices to pretty much stick with the same sort of team as had won at Villa the previous week?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy, to be honest. I think on the last show, when we did the review from the last game, I said that I didn't really expect him to change anything. And yeah, for me, it was based on the previous week's performance. I thought that, yeah, it was a fair lineup to start with.
Not expect you to be finished quite as early as you were there.
Something else.
Quite happy on my little message stream there. I'm like, I'll just catch up on a few of those.
Sorry, next time I'll try and drag it out a little bit longer.
Absolutely fine. You speak for as long or as little as you want to. I'm just like, was that me? Is my intellect on again? It often does when Matt's on and he becomes impromptu host for 2 minutes whilst my internet resets. So there we go. Matt, we'll come around to you as well. You were there behind the goal. I know this because we saw this on your social media, so I know you were there. How was the game for you in terms of that opening moment? Were you happy with the team? Did you feel like we were still the favourites at the point when you knew what the starting 11 was?
Yeah, I think based on obviously like has been mentioned previously against Villa, we put out a decent enough performance. I think that, everyone that started deserved to start, and I don't think there would have been too much for me that I would have changed. Obviously that opinion change come full time, but I think in terms of like the starting 11, it wasn't too much of a surprise. So yeah, happy at the start and disappointed at the end, I suppose, is the words I'd use.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. I did expect you to be finished at that time. I could hear the lilt in the voice coming down, so that was all good. Like that, no time for messing about, Bazza. So Meg, from the Arsenal point of view, obviously you'd had what can only be described as an atrocious defeat the week before against Liverpool. It's no fun when you've lost a game. And I say that because Jonas went on to make 6 changes from that game. Was that the right sort of decision to make? And we'll get to it, obviously, but how did you feel, obviously, knowing that D'Angelo had been chosen ahead of Zinsberger? Were you happy with the changes and were you happy with the setup?
Yeah, look, I mean, in goal, obviously Zinsberger's our number one, and I saw a lot on social media. People wanted Sabs to start in that game against Liverpool. I'm maybe quite not seeing what other people are seeing. I think Zinsberger's a decent goalkeeper. I don't think she's out of this world. I don't think she's quite, a Mary Earps, for example. But, Sabrina in goal, I absolutely love her. I thought, she's going to have a great game. Obviously, that didn't quite go to plan. But in terms of, the other changes, I thought, obviously, not many standout performances against Liverpool in the loss. But when Palova came on, she, completely changed the game. So I was glad to see her start. And obviously, the defence that we've got at the minute, obviously with Leah out, it's kind of, chopping and changing. And we've not replaced Rafa yet. It's what is the best centre back pairing we've got. And I mean, I think BT and Illustrate had a good game at the back, and obviously Leia made her debut as well. And I thought she looked a bit iffy at times, but you being thrown into a debut in a one of the biggest games that you're gonna have in the WSL in the league. So changes that I probably would have made myself.
Fair play. Well, Twillenberg has already said that they're going to lose it if we hear a positive word about the starting midfield. So let's just start straight there, because if we're going to make people's heads implode, we might as well do it immediately. Jess, we've spoken about the starting lineup. You said you were quite content, but the midfield has been the place, I suppose, that has been mentioned the most. Were you a bit surprised that Mark persisted with Zellerman Lad specifically in the midfield too? Obviously, we couldn't have played Guerrero. She wasn't on the bench. We don't know why. So that's just kind of is what it is. But would you expect it to see maybe a Nielsen or somebody else come in place of either Zellerman or Lad at some point? Or do you think that Mark's just sticking with what he knows there because it has been such a successful partnership in the past?
For me, I would have liked to have seen a change, to be honest. Whilst, like I said, I was happy kind of with that lineup at the start of the game, passing on from the previous week. I do think that more changes needed making. When he actually made the kind of substitutions to bring on like Williams, Malard, I thought they were kind of timed just about right. Arsenal were kind of just getting on the front foot, kind of giving the opportunity for the team to see if they kind of sort it out themselves. They couldn't, so he made the changes, and I thought they were really positive changes, and they worked. We got a goal pretty quickly after that. But for me, all game, the midfield was kind of just a little bit missing, to be honest. They didn't really seem to progress the ball forward. When they did get on it, quite often they just seemed to be bypassed. We seemed to be favouring playing down the wings or just booting it over, which is great, but I don't know, they just didn't seem to be kind of fulfilling their role almost. They were struggling sort of defensively, they were struggling offensively. So for me, I would have liked to have seen a change, definitely, just to try and freshen things up, get some new ideas in there, because it wasn't working on the night. And when you can see that, you need to make those changes. You need to make them tough calls. I know that was kind of our Hayley Ladd and Zell. They've been our sort of pairing for quite a while now, and did great last season, had some really great games, but wasn't great last week. Again, struggled a bit last night. Some changes definitely should have been made, in my opinion, there.
Matt, you're quite into your football, working over there at FC United. Talk to us about this midfield, because High Lanes, but Mark, he doesn't understand why Mark's so adamant that Zellerman Lad must play at all times, regardless of what's happening on the pitch. Would you have made any changes? Were you a bit surprised that there wasn't a change, considering the fact that Arsenal did have the lion's share of possession, I think, in the second half?
Yeah, I think, listen, we got to half time and you're sort of looking at it thinking, right, we've got away with it, so to speak, in the first half. Let's see what will change in the second half. And I think the trouble with Lad and Zellum is they're quite fairly similar. And by that, I mean defensively. Like, I think for me, we saw when we made the substitution, we got Miyazawa on the ball a lot more. It was a bit more creative. I felt it flowed a bit better. Again, people have mentioned Narsland as well. I think, could we have maybe made a sub earlier? For me, yes, especially in the middle. And I did say at full time, the right-hand side, or our right-hand side, was battered the whole 90 minutes for me. I think that was one change it was screaming out. And then the midfield, I think you've got to keep hold of the ball. And it just felt a bit frantic, a bit like we've got it, we've lost it, we've stood off. I mean, we stood off for their opening goal, and then we stood off for the equaliser. And I just think you've got to look at that and think, right, especially when if you look at the Arsenal midfield, obviously, Walter, good player, Pullover, good player. I know Kim Little played out of position, but again, good player. And then they've got Frida Marnham. And I just think you're bringing on these quality midfielders, and we're sticking with what looked a tired midfield. I don't know whether that was just they were tired or they just, I don't know. I can't even explain it. But for me, something didn't stick, and I think it sort of disrupted the flow. It felt a little bit bitty, and I think in the end, we got the draw, and that was that. But I do feel that it was chances missed. If we'd have changed that earlier and maybe looked to take the ball to them and attack a little bit more rather than sort of sit off, then we would have seen a different result.
Very interesting, really. I mean, Highlane says again, we see this multiple times in the big games. We're having problems midfield, yet Skinner either refuses to touch it or chooses to strip it out in favour of throwing on loads of forwards. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and rehash the arguments of Skinner last season because he finished second, and it's a ridiculous argument to have. But looking at it this season and in the game that we are looking at, I think it's hard to argue that there shouldn't have been some sort of change. Now, I feel like we have been invaded, boys and girls. It has happened. We knew it was going to occur. What with having Megan on the channel, so we've got no problems with that. Hello, welcome, Arsenal fan. She's saying that Arsenal's subs are spot on. Also saying that Arsenal's bench was stronger than United's bench. I'm not convinced I'm going to sit here and agree with that. But Megan, what was your thoughts in terms of the subs for Arsenal's point of view? Were you happy with the changes that Jonas made during the game and generally his management of the game?
Yeah, I mean, last season, a lot of the time, I was always so frustrated with when he would make his changes and the changes he would make. But I think last night was a perfect example of when you do need to make the changes and bringing on the right changes. I mean, we've got Katie McCabe on our bench. Like, that's just ridiculous. And, you know, she's I think she's one of the best players in her position in the world at the minute. And to be able to bring her on, you know, when you need that bit of forward momentum is brilliant. And obviously, Chloe Lacasse, we've just signed. I mean, we'll obviously get to her goal, I'm sure, later on. But when you bring her on and she can produce a bit of moment of magic like that, then, you know, you can't really fault the subs. And obviously, Beattie got bought off. Obviously, a couple of you think she should have maybe been sent off in the game. Obviously, she was bought off, and Lotte Wubben-Moy was bought on. I think she was just she had tired legs towards the end of the game. But, you know, yeah, spot on from Jonas.
We will definitely get to Jem Beattie, as I alluded to backstage, but we are not quite at that point yet. Just a couple of messages that we'll look at. McCabe's she's not a dirty player. She's just a tough tackling player. It happens. You get these sort of things.
Just passionate.
Good word, Jess. Absolutely. And this one, Arsenal celebrating draw is low-key embarrassing. I mean, if you've just seen the Man United game that just happened, if McTominay hadn't scored the second, we went absolutely mental at drawing 1-1 with Brentford as it was in the 93rd minute. So I think if you can't celebrate a goal in the 90-plus minutes, then what is the point of football? Like, genuinely. So I can't sit there and have that. But Ian is exactly right. McCabe has got more yellow cards than, well, probably as many yellow cards already in 2 games as you've got goals. So that's quite impressive. There we go.
We don't expect anything less from her. That's the thing. I mean, she's been on the pitch like a couple of minutes and got a yellow, and I was not surprised. And then Caitlin Ford
out and then smiled about it. She was just laughing, like, yeah, knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Look, we love her for it. As long as she doesn't get red cards, it's fine.
Absolutely interesting. It was quite interesting as well having Carla Ward there, you know, because she said, I've got all the information that I need for next week. So I'm very interested to see how you get on there. But let's get into it. We're into the game now. So let's get there. And it was a lovely start. I thought it was a really interesting beginning to the game. The opening 12, 13 minutes. It was a bit end-to-end at times. Wasn't really any major chances. But we'll stick with you on this one, Megan. Mainly because it's your lot that scored. But Stina Blackstenius, for me, Marriott should have done better. There was a shot in the second half which she saved exactly how I think she should have saved that one, but she didn't. Stina Blackstenius scored, and I can imagine you were rather excited at that.
Yes, I mean, to begin with, the ball from Steph Catley was, you know, pretty much, it was perfect, to be fair. She just ran onto it. And I think Blundell was just in the complete wrong position to deal with it as best as she could. And Blackstenius just got the better of her, drove into the box and just calmly slotted it into the back of the net. And yeah, Earps, you know, on her day, she is the best goalkeeper in the world. And I don't think she had a top class performance, but she probably should be doing better with that. But no, I mean, I think Blackstenius was our best attacking threat last night, and that just proved it with that goal.
Absolutely. HR, I mean, I know that we won. I'm not a moron. I listened to it. when it went in the 93rd minute, the noise was exactly the same as it was when it went in the 97th minute, is what I'm getting at. You celebrate late goals, it happens. It's a lot better to draw than it is to lose, obviously. So there we go. We'll get to this. I probably agree with you, but we shall see. I should probably mention the player of the match poll. I think Connor's put it on YouTube. If he hasn't, then there is no player of the match poll, because I don't know how to do that. He hasn't taught me that particular trick just yet. But I would imagine he has. And if he has, then there are 4 people that you can choose from. So I'll be very intrigued to hear your points on that one. Millie Turner was one of the ones that we chose. Leah Galton, Lucia Garcia, and Gabby George. Very intrigued to see what you think about the Gabby George one, because Connor was not convinced. He wanted to go for someone else. I'd like to see what you think of the 4. But whilst we're waiting for that, Jess, should Mary Earps have stopped Stina Blackstenius? Because I really feel like she should have.
Yeah, I think if she's kind of on her day, then yeah, that's getting stopped. But in all fairness, I think it potentially shouldn't have got that far. I think we were kind of exploited quite a bit down our right side. Sorry, I just had to think then, like, which side. But yes, down our right side, I thought we were exploited kind of all game. And Arsenal did a very good job of that, to be fair to them. And yes, Stina had a really good game. I think she kind of had the beating of Blundell, to be honest, on most occasions. But yeah, I think number 1 keeper in the world should really be doing a little bit more on that one.
Matt, what was your thoughts? I mean, I'm just trying to think now. You would have been behind that, would you? Was that shooting at your end first?
No, that was going at the the seated goal end, whatever stand that is.
It's far away.
Yeah,
who
far
really
end.
wants to see Arsenal score?
Yeah.
But what did you think from the view that you had?
Pretty much agree with what's been said. I think Mary could have done better with the positioning and with the shot. But again, we can't allow, and this came from midfield, obviously, through ball over the top, whatever you want to call it, completely taken out Blundell, who was just on the back foot trying to chase her. And it was a common theme all game. And I think then Maya comes out to cover most of the game, which is absolutely fine, as a centre half. But I just think down that side, we needed to address it quicker. Blundell is fine at left back. Obviously, Jade's, I don't know, not fit or whichever. But I just don't like the idea going forward of Blundell at right back. I just think it's a recipe for disaster going forward. Now that we've been exploited there, other teams are going to see that, pick up on that. So we need to look at that. But yeah, it's one of them. It's happened, and then we get back into the game, which is the most important thing, and go from there. But yeah, I would have liked to see a change happen to address that problem down that side, because it was a problem for 97 minutes and it didn't help.
It was a bit scary, actually, seeing just how much Hannah Blundell was being beaten for pace and everything else down that United right. Very interesting, though. Connor's put here, Mary could maybe do a little better. One pass to bypass the whole midfield and Blundell is very poor. And I just hope you realise that footballers practice this. This is one of the things you're trying to do, is to try and find those line-breaking passes that allows people to get through. And I think the fact that one pass has got through there isn't the problem. For me, it was this. It happened more than once, and I think that was the problem. The fact that it was a ball that was happening quite regularly, and that's the issue, the regularity of it, as opposed to the fact that it was one, which I'm sure we drew. It wasn't last season, so it must have been the season before. And I think Blackstenia scored that one as well, and it was literally the same thing, just straight through and one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It was right in front of us as well. I hated her for that. But there we go. That's life. Let's talk about the equaliser, because quite frankly, it was my goal of the day. I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for a ridiculous number of reasons, but none more so than the look on Jonas Eidevall's face after it happened, because he's just there on the touchline. And he's just like, quiet. There was no words. And then he just walked away going, okay. And then he sat down in his seat as if to go, there's nothing I can do here. What can I say about that? I thought it was atrocious for D'Angelo. We know that, and it's going to be in a horrible moment for her. But Leah Gorton off the mark, Jess, and I said she was going to be our top goal scorer this season. Calm, composed finish. She couldn't really miss from 12 yards out there, could she?
No, I mean, that would have gone down as kind of a bit of a horror show, actually, if she'd have missed that, potentially even more so than the keeper kind of fluffing it in the first place. Like Idafel, I don't think there's really much you can say to that. Obviously, the keeper's got to do better. Everyone in the world knows that. It's one of them. Galton did well. She kind of gambled on it. I know she sort of looked like she might be about to turn around and leave it. But kind of striker's instinct, you're taught to kind of never give up on a ball. She didn't. And ultimately, that's why we got the goal. And that's why you should never kind of go in half-arsed on a challenge like D'Angelo did. Like, you've just got to go in, get that ball, get it gone. But yeah, fair play to Galton for kind of gambling on that, and good for her to kind of open a scoring account. Long may it continue, especially if they're going to be goals like that.
I've left this on there because this was also very interesting, because secondary to Jonas's response was, of course, the fact that the camera panned to Zinsberger. And I don't know if she could see, perhaps in the dugout, that obviously the TV cameras are on her, because it did look like she was just sort of no facial expression. I'm going to do the very best I can to not make anything that could create a story. But Matt, I mean, we've seen ourselves at United, a couple of goalkeeping mishaps at times that do cause you a problem. I'm thinking immediately of United against Everton, that terrible moment between Thor and Earps, and then Everton just get in there and nip the ball. So it happens to us all, but ultimately just what United needed in order to sort of get back into the game, really.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need that little sort of lifeline. I actually thought for a second that Leah was about to stop running, because I turned and said to Rob, I was like, if she carries on here and rounds the keeper takes her out, she's going to be off. That was my theory behind it. And then she made a complete hash and we slotted it in. So it was like, oh, actually, it doesn't matter now. But yeah, I think sometimes you just need that bit of luck, once you've gone behind, especially at home. You've had a bit of a run around, like I mentioned before, in the midfield, something like that, just to lift the team before the break, and then regroup for the second half. But yeah, I was actually surprised. I actually thought that Zinsberger would play. I mean, I don't watch much of Arsenal, but in my view, and this is just simply from the other perspective, she's a better keeper. So yeah, I guess that's that really. But we thank her for the error, and off we go again.
I can only imagine what it was like for you, Megan, at this precise moment in time. The look on D'Angelo's face itself was one of probably not getting picked next week at that moment in time. What was you making of it, and just how loudly did you swear at the TV?
I can't actually remember what I said, or I think I was similar to Jonas, and I just went quiet because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, to be fair. But I mean, yeah, as you said, her face, it just said it all. When you come out to the edge of your box, it's always going to be a gamble as to, whether you get the ball or not, obviously. But I mean, it's just so infuriating when you see that. And I don't think I mustn't have been paying attention when the cameras panned to Zinsberger, because I didn't see the giggling bit. But I mean, she probably thought she was going to start that game because, she's our number one keeper, and she knows what it's like to play against a very good United team. But I did think that she had a few shaky moments after that, but I think she did do well to recover for the rest of the game. But I don't think it's enough for Jonas to go, oh, I'm going to gamble and start her again against Villa at the Emirates. But I also think I heard Jonas saying something before the game, mirroring what Arteta's been saying about the whole Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya situation, and saying how he would not put it past himself to bring on a goalkeeper during a game. And I heard Jonas was saying that before the game. Interesting. So I thought that there might have been a moment where Jonas maybe did bring D'Angelo off, but it didn't happen.
Well, it would have been very interesting to see that happen. Like I say, I didn't see her giggle. I just saw this sort of face that just would not respond or give anything away. But there we go. Speaking of giving things away, let's talk a little bit about Geyse, because there was a lot of fanfare about how she performed in the game against Villa, and she was very, very good. I thought first half, again, very good. I think she was muscled off the ball quite a bit. Jess, what was your thoughts on how Geyse played? Because obviously second half, very ineffective, hence why she got the hook in the end. But that first half, you could certainly see there's a lot of flair there, and a lot of ability, a lot of skill. She is strong. She has got the pace. I see these things mentioned on Twitter, but that doesn't mean they're wrong just because they're there. She's got everything that you could want as a footballer, just not quite in sync with the front three in general. And I think that's really what I came away with from the whole game, is that our front three haven't quite managed to click and gel. The last ball just wasn't quite as good as it could have been. And as a result of that, that's why we didn't have as many chances. Maybe that was part of the problem, that we didn't manage to test D'Angelo a little bit more whilst her confidence was faltering. And instead we allowed her to sort of get back into the game. So, yeah, thoughts on Geyse, Jess?
I thought, similar to last week, there were moments where she really did show her quality. I thought her biggest kind of issue was during the game her hold-up play. Basically, she didn't have any hold-up play, to be perfectly honest. I think she really struggled being kind of up top on her own. Every time she kind of received the ball with either her back to kind of the Arsenal goal or kind of on the turn, she basically had the ball pinched from her. Obviously, that was, the Arsenal side obviously set up well. They're marking her tight. But as a kind of a striker in that sort of formation, you've got to expect that you're going to receive the ball and you're going to be the highest player up that pitch and you need to hold that ball. I don't know whether it's just a bit of getting used to the league. Everyone says coming to the WSL that it's like a more physical league than some of the others. So I don't know whether that's kind of not part of the issue, but just part, something to consider. Similar to last week, I thought she looked a little bit leggy, a little bit tired, and I'm assuming that's probably why she was hooked in the second half. I thought in some instances she was linking up slightly better with some of the other front three compared to last week, but still I think she kind of has a bit of flair to her and the others aren't really expecting it yet. And in some cases it's not really coming off. I think because she's maybe not used to kind of the physicality, she needs to just concentrate on receiving the ball, guarding the ball, putting her body between the ball and the player. If she can draw a foul, fantastic. I think that's what she's kind of got to look to do a little bit more, play a little bit smarter. Some of that I think will just come in time. I thought at times as well she looked very frustrated. Her and Garcia seemed to be having words on a couple of occasions that sort of seemed to be instigated by her. So I think there's a lot to be positive about moving forward. I think, we've just got to give her time. And for me, the biggest thing is she's definitely got to work on that hold-up play.
Matt, I don't know how you felt watching her in the flesh for the first time. You weren't at the Villa game, were you?
No, I wasn't at the Villa game. I had to suffer that on TV.
Yeah, we all. But, Geyse, I thought, as we said, had a great game for the first part. But again, just the decision making at the end. And I'm going to ask your thoughts on this as well, because I was screaming at my telly, like actually screaming, because Jen Beattie, throws her down to the floor in a move that I feel like is only seen often in WWE and AEW, these sorts of things. She's literally assaulted. You do that on the street, you'd probably end up in prison. It was mental. She does that, not a free kick, nothing. And then comes round, Geyse does a little barge on her, and hello, free kick all of a sudden. She looked like a frustrated figure. And what was worse about that was if the free kick was given, she was the last person. Geyse is getting through on goal. She's been completely blocked off, brought down to the floor. That's a red card because she's going to be one-on-one with the goalkeeper. So it would have been a soft red card because it wasn't like she's taken her out and tried to break her legs or done anything stupid like that. But ultimately, last player, that's what you're going to get. So it's fair to say there was a few choice words that came out of my mouth at that particular point. But what did you make of Geyse, and also the fact that clearly we should have called 999?
No, you are right in terms of the Beattie foul, but I think going back to sort of what Jess was saying, I think she did seem to struggle with the physicality. And listen, Villa are a better side than last season. They've improved a lot, but the defenders and the midfielders are not as good as the Arsenal ones. I just felt like against better players yesterday she struggled. There's a couple of times where she was on the floor and she didn't need to be on the floor, where that probably then played into the referee's mind on the Beattie thing. The referee's position was poor on the Beattie thing. I think when I looked at it back, she was sort of angled to the side behind, which when somebody's coming across you and you stood behind, you ain't going to see the arm across. But yeah, I just think, listen, Mark's talked about his front three and he wants them to rotate. I actually thought when she was wide, she looked better than when she was central. I think centrally and isolated, when you struggle to hold a ball, is a very difficult role to play. That said, again, we've talked about it. There was glimpses of good things, very quick, couple of skills thrown in there as well. So there's potential to work with that. I would be really interested actually to see her wide, Malard centrally, and Galton on the left as a front sort of three, and then something like Tooney or someone else in behind. Because I know Mark's talked about rotation to Tuesday, but yeah, I think there's more to come. But we need to work on the hold-up play if that's the plan this season. Either that or get more support in and around, so that if the hold-up play is not there, it's just bounced off two runners, and we go in behind, things like that, really. But yeah, probably not best game yesterday. Thought she was better against Villa. Again, though, lesser opposition. And it's something we need to think about when we're facing better teams, for me.
Yeah, well, you get a fan, but that fan's Connor, so make that what you will. Like I could be nice. We'll get to you, Meg. I'm just going to point this out. So the Arsenal fan, Tim Amania, has boxed in red card, ridiculous, which is followed up by an actual qualified referee. And I say this genuinely, this guy is a qualified referee. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And to be fair to the guy, on the times when I've sat there and said, I think that should be a red card or this, that, or the other, if he thought it hasn't been, and it's against United, he does come up and say, no, absolutely not. So he's very good at the rules, 100%. For those of you that need to work out what dog so meant, which is what I spent most of what Matt was saying, just trying to work out, that's denying the opposition goal scoring opportunity, I believe. So we've got that, and that's 100% what it was. Like I say, it's not a red card in terms of intent or anything like that, like was being mentioned against Hanson the week before. But ultimately, Megan, she was the last person. And when you look at it, she's got arms around her. She pulls her down. It's complete obstruction. Geyse can't get through. I mean, at the very least, it's a foul. And if that's a foul, then it has to be a red card because they're the rules. And as Mike D made very clear today to Paul Merson, the rules are the rules. They're the law. You can't change them, Merson.
Yeah, look, I've just had another look at it. And I mean, Jen Beattie in our squad, she's one of the most experienced players we have. She knows that if you do something like that, you're most likely going to be sent off. Obviously, she wasn't in this case, but yeah, she completely drags her to the floor. There's just no need for it. And Beattie's a big, strong player anyway. You can just muscle her off the ball and try and get her to lose her footing or just lose concentration. You don't have to take both your arms and rag the player to the floor. There's no need for it. I think she was lucky. For no free kick and no yellow is completely obscene. But red card, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I didn't expect you to come on and say it was going to be a red card. Imara has said Beattie had the better positioning. Well, she's a defender. It's her job to be behind her. Geyse wasn't through exactly because she was yanked down before she could get there. Geyse was behind her and then on the floor. A foul is a foul at the end of the day, and that is that. I actually felt Toon had quite a reasonable first half. I thought she was not too bad at all. It was the second half where it kind of went down. And yes, he did. That was quite funny, to be fair. But the fact you said yellow at least tells me that you thought it was a foul, and that's really all I needed to hear, Timmermania, because then the rules and the law would take over from that point. So it was a definite foul, agreed everywhere. So there we are. The second half, I mean, honestly, this is where I sort of get myself into trouble now, the United fans, because I thought we were actually quite appalling for the second half. I don't think we performed even close to the levels that we're capable of. I think that Arsenal 100% were the better side in the second half. And that's why, even though we did take the lead and they pulled it back, I think I actually said to Laura, who was on the show, it was only Thursday, that I think actually had we won that, it probably would have an undeserved 3 points, although delightful. Jess, what did you make of the second half? Because to me, that was not the level of football that Manchester United need to be playing. And if we do much more of that, I can't see us doing as well as we did last season if that's how we're going to play in the second half.
No, I mean, once again, I thought the team just looked tired. And although, yes, obviously we mentioned last week on the Villa review show about the international break came at a really bad time, but most of the Arsenal team were away on international break as well. So I don't know, I'm struggling to kind of still use that as an excuse. But yeah, I thought players were starting to get like a bit aggy with each other. Positioning wasn't great. I thought defensively, I don't know, the only word I can think to describe it, defensively, I thought we were really loose. We were standing off players, getting turned way too easily. At one point, I think Blundell and Letizia just got absolutely rinsed in a corner by Catley, maybe, I can't remember who, but it was actually embarrassing to watch. Like, if I'd have been one of them, I couldn't even face myself, because it's like getting megsed. It's just, you don't want it to happen. So yeah, for me, got to sort out this kind of issue with looking leggy in the second half. I don't know whether it's a fitness thing. I don't know whether it is genuinely the international break still kind of players are struggling, but it's not going to get any easier. We've got a game again on Tuesday, so that is something they're going to have to kind of sort out. For me, I'm sure we'll get onto it a little bit more with the subs. I thought the initial subs were good, but more changes probably did need to be made. I think we are going to need a bit of a refresher before Tuesday if we're going to pose any kind of threat to PSG, to be honest with you.
They were tired, weren't they, Matt? Obviously, we can't describe how tired to the level that Lucia Garcia would say it. I mean, it was like watching an episode of The Walking Dead at one point, because they just didn't seem capable of having any energy. You know, I could see the ball at the back, and you feel like, all right, well, Arsenal aren't coming on to us at that point. So actually, you can kind of see why we're just passing the ball around the back, trying to draw them onto us to create the spaces. But equally, when it's 1-1 and it's a massive game like this and you want to win, you don't want to be seeing your team walking like that. You want to see them finding the gaps, getting through there and cutting through them like a knife through butter. Why weren't we?
That's a good question. I think for me, it was there to be taken to. I think it showed when we got the second goal, when we went direct and we actually attacked Arsenal. I thought it was better. For me, I would have actually chucked on the key to Paris, just for a little bit of energy, maybe something to kind of lift the team potentially. I mean, you know, there's not really much else sub-wise that, you know, we could have done. I mean, obviously bringing on Norsland, maybe, as I mentioned earlier, in midfield potentially, but I think in terms of taking the game to them, especially when we tire and obviously they'll begin to tire, is bring on something that's quick. Worked well with Malard, got the goal. But yeah, it was like a bitty leggy performance. You'd think that we'd sort of maybe had a game 2 days prior, and I don't know whether it's a fitness issue, whether it's, I know people in the comments have said, you know, international break and things like that, but it's the same for everyone. You know, it's not just a Man United problem, the internationals, it's a WSL problem. Yes, we have more internationals than other teams going away. Fair enough. That's what happens with the top side. But, you know, the squad's there to be used. And I just think, had we maybe, I don't know, like I said earlier, changed things a little bit earlier, brought on, you know, someone else, it would have helped. But, you know, it's done now, and we've got to sort of look ahead and learn from it for Tuesday, really, and hope that people are not tired, I guess.
No, absolutely, definitely not. So, Megan, for you, I suppose, really, looking at that second half, you must have felt like you were going to be coming away with 3 points from LSV, because I can only really remember 2 or 3 attacks in that second half from us. It was literally all you. What did you make of that second half performance for Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, obviously going into the break 1-1, obviously, if you don't come out firing, then you're going to struggle for the remainder of the game. And I thought we did come out firing. I mean, obviously we've not really touched on Russo yet, but I think Russo I thought she had a really great game. Obviously she hit the post. She had that header that, you know, she probably could have put a bit more power on and maybe found the back of the net with that. But just those moments, I thought that was the biggest difference from, even though we created so much against Liverpool, every time we had it in the box, I didn't really feel like we were going to score. But every time we had it in the box, I thought, oh, we're going to score here. And, that's the biggest difference that I saw. And so many times we came so close. And even after we got the equaliser, I thought, we could still go and get something here. But no, I think, I don't know what it was with United. They just lacked concentration. I mean, obviously, we lacked concentration for Mallard's goal. I think Maritz's clearance wasn't good enough. And then our back line didn't really communicate well. Obviously, Illerstedt did the best she could to kind of muscle Malard off the ball. But ultimately, the ball was going to find the back of the net some way or another.
Yeah, very, very, very true. I feel like, Imara, I'm not sure. I feel like you're an Arsenal fan based on what you were saying to begin with. And then you've cut this comment in, which made me think, oh, maybe she's a Man United fan. And then this pops in, and I'm like, no, she must be an Arsenal fan, because we were booing Russo, and all Arsenal were doing was singing, "We've got Alessia Russo, we've got." Honest, that song just right through my head, and it was right under the gantry. So, frankly, you lot can do one for that. We are going to get back to Alessia Russo, or Alessia Busso, as I have christened her lately. But before we get to that, I need to get to that. Well, no, actually, let's do it now. Let's do it now before we get to the Malard and the stuff, because we're there and we're on that particular train. We might as well. Because it was her shot that happened before the Malard goal. Twilumber was just glad that Russo didn't score. That post is now my favourite part of LSV, 100%. Better signing, I think, actually, than had we kept her. So that was good. Timamiania says it would have been over had she scored it, and she's right. James, a flat pusher, could you not? Arsenal outplayed us. Yes, they absolutely did. Very soon, Leslie will prove Man United wrong. It's nice that you say that. There's nothing to prove us wrong for. None of us are saying she's not a good player. I find it hilarious that so far she failed dismally. There we go. Here we go. What's this? Are we going to be mad you called it soccer? Who called it soccer? Oh, my God. Yes, they did. What is this game that you speak of? That's atrocious. And then that as well. I'm not sure you're allowed to stay, if I'm honest. Jess, talk to us about Alessia Russo. You obviously, I don't think, were at the game, but you do have to recall the fact that Alessia Russo was going to get booed. What did you make of the booing of Alessia Russo, as it shall now be called, a bit like an Agatha Christie novel?
I was there, and to be honest, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just a bit of banter, to be honest. It is just, a bit of banter. And had she scored, which, to be honest, she probably deserved a goal. I have to agree, she actually played pretty well. I thought she was pretty dynamic. I actually think she played better for Arsenal than I've seen her play for United for quite a while. So, fair play to her. It is what it is. The comment before about going to prove United wrong, again, I don't think there's anything to prove us wrong. We didn't bin her off because we didn't want her. She left on a free. That's fine. You do you, girl. But yeah, we're going to boo. It's football. It's a bit of a laugh, to be honest. I had a great time. I thought it was funny. And if she'd have actually scored and run over and celebrated in front of us, we would have thoroughly deserved it. And all the grief we would have got from Arsenal fans, we would have deserved that too. Fair play to the Arsenal fans. They did try and kind of drown us out with their own singing. So yeah, good for them. I think if you dish it out with your booing, then you've got to be able to take it. So I'm more than happy, if she ends up with kind of like the golden boot this year, then I will happily take all the grief that I will undoubtedly get.
I feel like that's kind of what the whole point is. Jennifer says, "Don't go, Mara. Don't worry. She has stayed after that horrific moment. She just did a D'Angelo moment. That's what happened. Little own goal, effectively. But she's okay now. She's got herself back together. And there we go. We're stuck with her. So why not? It's been a good evening so far. This is the one that gets me, Matt. Now, you're in the game. I'm in the game. Not to say that everybody else isn't in the game that's here, because we all love it. But I mean, we've got a weekly job that we have to go and do where we're surrounded by these people. And this is the booing, though unnecessary. Let her live. We should only worry about United. Now, I was in the middle of, I'm not going to call it a heated debate. It was more a heated defence more than anything else. But I'm very clear. Had I been at LSV, I feel I would have booed Alessia Russo because I'm a Manchester United fan. For me, I feel betrayed. Like, genuinely, I do. Because she's a Man United fan. She's meant to be. She loves the club. It's her childhood dream to play for the football club. She does so. And then the minute we get Champions League football, you would think, well, surely it's going to be my dream to play Champions League football for Manchester United. And instead, she just goes to Arsenal, where, you know, I can't imagine she's on more money per week. So unless there was a little sweetener in the deal to come over, it can't be a money thing. So why on earth would she do that? So I'm sat there with this feeling, and I was told basically, in no uncertain terms, that the team you support doesn't matter. And it's like, in general, I don't mind the fact she's gone to Arsenal. It's like the fact she's left isn't the problem. It's the fact of how she chose to leave. The fact that she decided as a Manchester United fan to just completely sack off the club that she loves. And I'm basing that very much on my own personal opinion. If I was playing for Manchester United and they offered me a contract, and so did another club, and we'd finished above them, and we had a better chance of reaching the European group stages because we had one less match to play, I'd be playing for Man United. It wouldn't matter. They could offer me millions more. I would still want to play for Man United because it's been my club. It's been in my blood since 1987. Why would I want to be anywhere else? I'd always have to question why they've signed a 41-year-old bloke as well, because frankly, although to be fair, probably could have done better than one or two of the others that played lately. But you were there. How loud was the Russo booing? And was it just panto, as some people are saying? Just part of the game, because I think it is. I think people should just chill out and accept that it's just banter, as long as it doesn't go over into abuse, where we go at her as a person, which absolutely should not happen. What's the harm?
No, I agree. I never understand. Man City fans they were doing this last year over the Greenwood thing. Oh, it's abuse, it's abuse. Nobody's physically like started swearing or, you know, gone into any ridiculous comments like that. It's just football. I can't get my head around people that call it abuse. It baffles me. It really does. You know, it's part and parcel of the game. Whether it's Russo, whether it's Greenwood, whether it's Lauren James, it's not like it's never happened before. You know, it happens. It's coming to the game. I've heard it at other clubs, but it always seems that when United do it, it's a big issue, or so people seem to think. But yeah, I just think for me, listen, it was always going to happen, wasn't it? You know, people like yourself, Barry, when you just said that, let down, you felt, you know, it's somebody that supports United, chosen to leave for whatever reasons. I know people have obviously criticised the brothers and said, you know, badly advised and gone for this, gone for that. Listen, obviously, we're never going to know the full ins and outs because we were told that she was offered, you know, the highest paid salary at United. She's probably gone and got that same money at Arsenal. So, you know, people go for different reasons, but I think there's a big overreaction from people, especially on Twitter. My day is over booing. It's like, you know, so what? It happens. It's football. Like I said, nobody overstepped the mark. Yes, there was loud booing, you know, people shouting snake, nothing we've not heard before. But I just think, you know, people have done that against our players. You know, our players have got booed and United fans haven't made a big deal of it. So I just, yeah, I don't get it. You know, she came, she played a game. Like we said before, you know, she didn't score. That's the main thing. And, you know, we've come away with a point. But I just, I can't understand people that sort of chuck the toys out the pram and start saying, oh, it's dreadful, it's this, it's that. It's like, just have a day off. Do you know what I mean? There's worse things that could have been said that weren't said. And yeah, it's just football, isn't it? You know, I've heard worse things at women's football than booing, put it that way.
Timberman, yeah. Prepare to boo Mary next. Well, if she goes to you, he will. Although, actually, again, she wasn't a Man United fan, as far as I'm aware. She's come from Nottingham. She's probably not a huge Manchester United fan.
I don't want to mention who she supports, Barry. It's bad.
I'm not planning on doing that at this precise moment. You know, that might be later on in the season. We'll see. Jen, bless her, has gone. Her contract expired and her obligations to United ended. I get that, and that's fine. I accept players are going to move on. It's football. That is what happens. However, she shouldn't have gone. And these people calling her a snake, well, that's just taking the hiss, isn't it? So,
oh, that is horrendous. That's worse than the booing.
That was shocking.
Obviously, complaining about the booing needs to get on Twitter right now and cry about that horrific pod, because that has offended me more than anything else this evening.
That pun is worse than D'Angelo's mistake.
Wow. Well, I thought it was quite good. I thought it was quite good. Well, that's outrageous. I'm going to think of a new one. Would Arsenal fans boo Leah Williamson if she came to United? I'd expect them to. Wouldn't have a problem. I think that'd be a very interesting one. So you can answer that question for us now, Megan, along with Connor's question of did you boo Robin Van Persie? Why should it be different for the women's players as long as that line isn't crossed?
Of course I booed Robin Van Persie. Come on. I mean, hopefully Leah Williamson will never, ever leave Arsenal. It would break my heart to have to boo her if she went to another club, honestly. I don't think I could actually bring myself to do that. But in terms of how, I mean, obviously no one, it's like our fans were, I heard our fans all night, you know, through the TV. Obviously, I heard a lot of the Kate McCabe chant, obviously the Russo chant. But I do probably think that there was probably a small minority of United fans that probably went to that game and said to themselves before the game, I'm going to boo Russo every time she touches the ball. There's got to be a few people who have said that to themselves because, I mean, but that is part of football. But I mean, it's just booing. As Matt said, I've heard much worse in women's football than just booing. You know, booing is just there. You know, there's so many more levels to, I mean, booing isn't even abuse, but abuse is, you know, so much higher than just booing. And yeah, it's just part and parcel of the game. And as you said about Alex Greenwood making it, you know, spur her on more now she's at City, I think, you know, it should spur Russo on when she gets booed.
There's not a club in the football land that has a history better than Manchester United, and I shan't have it any other way, especially not on a channel for Manchester United fans. So, no on that one. What's this one? Let it go, man. We all know where you stand with Russo. Well, I should hope so. I'm only 5'1". I have to make sure people can see me, and I jump up and down every now and again. So there we go. But that was the Alessia Russo moment, and yeah, that song. Honestly, the music right underneath the gantry where they were doing the commentary from, and it was just every single time. I didn't even hear the booing because that was all I could hear was just Alessia Russo. We got. Honestly, what is it with Arsenal where they've only got one song? I mean, it's marginally better than the Arsenal. Honestly, no wonder Highbury was asleep all of the time.
You can't forget We've Got McCabe. That's the best song to ever exist.
I want to know who did it first, the Zellum song or the McCabe song.
I don't know.
Matt, you might be able to help us out here because I'm like, hang on a minute, they've stolen our song. Who stole it from who?
I don't know, Barry, but it's not a favourite of mine anyway. I just think it's a dreadful chant, so let Arsenal have it. I'm not bothered.
McCabe and Arsenal longer than Man United women have been a club, so.
Have you been seeing it since you arrived?
No, I don't think so.
There you go.
I don't know how many years we've been singing it for, but.
All right. Well, that's your job. You do a bit of journalism. That's your investigative journalism for the next time you're on. When did that get? Then I'll do the same for us. So there we are. Right. Here's an interesting one. Leah would never go to United in the first place. Well, we shall see, won't we? Because, you know, if we start making Champions League and you don't, you just never know where people go.
I can't see her leaving the club. I honestly can't. I just can't.
I said the same. Okay, let's get to at the Duck, Malard. What a moment. Absolutely unbelievable. I said the second half, we were not under any circumstances looking like we were going to score. We should never have scored that goal, should we, Jess? Malard had no right getting to that ball. Like, the ball's gone in. You just think, it's another one. We tried to force it again. We're just not putting the balls in correctly. How in the hell did she get there first? Even when she got to it, I'm like, that's never going in. And then even in the replay, you can barely see where the foot clicks it. It's like watching FIFA. You know, sometimes you just have that thing and then a player just drops and you're like, well, who touched him? He's just falling down. That was what it was like. Absolutely mad. What did you make of the goal? And just how much did you cheer? Because I was doing cartwheels.
Yeah, I sort of lost my head a little bit. Obviously, I was in the like the standing bit at LSV, so it all sort of happened at the opposite end of the pitch. And quite honestly, I couldn't even work out what had gone on, who had touched it last. And it all seemed to happen so slow. Like the ball kind of got pinged forward, didn't look like it was really much of anything, and then suddenly everyone's cheering, and I'm like, oh my god, yay! I sort of watched the replay, and yeah, no right really to score that, but again, just kind of shows persistence, good striker's instincts, not to kind of let it go. Keep chasing every ball. Also potentially shows what fresh legs can do for you, because at that point the rest of the team were flagging. I think the subs had just started to make a bit of an impact, but for the most part, Arsenal were completely dominating. That had kind of come against the run of play. Really, we had started picking up a little bit. But funnily enough, I think Arsenal was so kind of weak in their tackling for that goal. It was very similar to how I thought that United were defensively. But yeah, another goal that really we were kind of lucky to get, but that's just football. Realistically, most goals kind of come from the other team's mistakes. And yeah, just happy it went in. Great kind of first goal to score, an important first goal to score. Maybe not quality wise, but just the whole like persistence of just chasing every ball. That is, that's what you want from your players. You want someone to just keep going, even if it kind of looks like you're not going to win or you're going to lose it. That is absolutely what you want from a forward player.
Yeah, I mean, Matt had had a couple of changes at that point. Obviously, Miyazawa had come on for Toon, and of course, Malard came on as well for Garcia, who I'm sure was absolutely shattered. But the two of them combined there brilliantly. And like we say, this is no way she should have got there. You must have been absolutely rocking at LSV.
Well, yeah, when we could see it. I was similar to like Jess was saying, it looked chaotic and then it just went in. I was like, great, we scored. But yeah, having watched the replay, I suppose that's what persistence and sort of hard work gets. And I was actually lucky enough to see Malard in the under-19 Euros, and we went up to Scotland, myself and a few others, became aware of her sort of then. And, very, very good signing. I was pleased that we managed to get her, I think, just ahead of all the others, really. Very quick player, puts in a great shift. She's young as well, so we've got things to work with. So I'm looking forward to seeing her progress over, the course of the season. But I think, we've had sort of a taste of what she can do, offers something different. And I think, get her used to playing with the other front line and the midfielders, and get her in and around the team and keep her fit. And I think we've got a very good, talented player on our hands. But yeah, like you said, no real right to get that, but you've got to at least try, and obviously persistence has paid off, and in the end it's turned out to be an important goal that's actually got us a point in the end.
Absolutely. Annabelle April, I feel like you've been looking at the script again and seeing what's going on, but yes, I'm sure the PSG thing will be chatted about on Monday in our usual Monday evening slot. But Meg, you must have been gutted, to be honest with you, to have dominated the second half in the manner that you did. You must have thought, oh my God, they've done it to us again.
Yeah, I mean, I was having flashbacks from when Russo scored the winner at the Emirates last season. That it was exactly that, and I didn't.
Back when she was good.
Yeah, well, she was good last night. So, but no, I think she had a similar mindset to like Galton did for her goal, because as we were saying, Galton could have easily kind of given up and not persisted with the ball forward and not gone on and scored. But Malard did exactly the same thing. She had no right to kind of score that, and Ilestedt did. I guess you could say she did all she could to try and muscle her off the ball. Obviously, the WSL is a very physical game compared to all the other leagues that there are, and Ilestedt is new to that as well as Malard is as well. But yeah, I mean, when you scored that, I thought that was game over. I thought the 3 points were all yours.
Who would you put the blame at for that one? Because Ilestedt looked like she was trying to hold off Malard to wait for D'Angelo to come and get the ball. But equally, should D'Angelo not have expected her to try and stick that in row Z, especially the fact it was late on in the game?
I mean, I watched the goal back and I thought Maritz had not done well enough to clear the ball when it came to her on the edge of the box. Obviously, she's a very experienced player. She could have done much better to completely get rid of it. But then I thought when the ball did fall to Malard, I think the communication between our defenders just wasn't there. Beattie kind of stood there and didn't do anything, and Illichet was kind of the only defender that, you know, tracked back and tried to get the ball off Malard, but ultimately, you know, the ball was finding its way into the back of the net then.
You get the poor clearance, the middle top of 18, then miserable communication. But I've got to be honest, Matt, even when it went in, I sat down and I was at that point, you know, when you sit and watch a game on the telly and you got restless feet. They're sort of tapping everywhere. You're sort of like holding on. I often sit like this watching it because that way I can just squeeze my arms every time they're coming forward. I genuinely did feel like Arsenal were just going to then come and batter us. And it was horrific because I'm sat there going, please, Mark, let's push forward still. Try and get the third goal. Put the game out of reach. Don't just sit back. This is an Arsenal side that it's only going to take one moment. And what a moment it was. There's lots of arguments that this is why the midfield should have changed because Zellerman lad pretty much non-existent in terms of getting the tackles. It was a brilliant shot, to be fair, a very good goal, but one that shouldn't have been allowed to have been taken in the first place.
No, I agree. I said this on Twitter. I think somebody tweeted me and I said, listen, it was a quality finish, take nothing away from that, but you've had 2 or 3 players that have just not done anything. They've just let her breeze through, you know, take the hit, you know, take her out, tackle, whatever. Just don't let somebody waltz through like that and then stick it in the top corner. But yeah, that's pretty much sums it up there. I was just going to get on, you know, you can't, especially when there's only one goal in it, you can't afford to sit back. We didn't even sit in the mid block. We just sat deep, which obviously invites pressure. And, you know, we know that there's lots of added time being, you know, chucked on these days for breaks in play and things like that. So there's always going to be a long time to concentrate. And just think, you know, you're tired, leggy, mentally tired. It's not a good idea for me to sit back and hope for the best. So I was very disappointed with the manner of which it was conceded. Like I say, lovely finish, and you know it was perfectly placed. Earps isn't going to get there, but you've got to look at the 2-3 chances before then we had to stop it. And I think that was the disappointment. You know, we got a point, and everyone's saying, "Oh yeah, we've got a point," but I'm sitting on the fence of no, it's 2 points dropped. It's not really good enough. You know, we've talked about it. You know, we weren't dominant. We didn't do enough to win the game, but I felt that when we did get that goal, listen, you've got to do a better job of seeing it out. And, you know, had we done that, whether that was through changes or game management, we would have picked up the 3 points. And these are obviously important, especially at home. I said to, you know, Rob and Gareth yesterday, who stood next to me, you know, we're disappointed, and people saying, oh, it shows how far we've come. But it's like, these are the teams, the Arsenals, you know, the Cities where we've got to be picking up 3 points. You know, we've been in a position to do it. And, you know, if we want to be pushing for titles and things like that, I think, was it Chelsea that only took points off us out the top sides last year at least? So in that aspect, it's frustrating to come away with a draw. But that said, we didn't see it out very well, and we didn't dominate enough to deserve 3 points. So, yeah, it's one of them. Frustration is the only word I'd use to summarise that, really.
Interesting point there. Annabelle saying we can't keep sending Rachel Williams in the rescue to rescue us every game. It's predictable. We need to mix it up. I mean, I'd argue throw her on every game because, quite frankly, she's. I think Charlie would call her a tank. She's an absolute tank, and she just does not like even in defence. I'm sure she had a moment there where she just literally just bodied someone. They went straight down, and I found that hilarious, and obviously not a red card. I'm playing, just trying to catch one of you Arsenal fans. Let's see who does it. Jess, where did you stand in terms of the goal? Because I know you were watching it on the telly, much like myself. Did it feel inevitable to you?
Yeah, and to be honest, they did deserve it. I still think it was points lost for us from that winning position with so little time left. But based on the game as a whole, if anything, Arsenal were kind of the dominant side, and we were sort of fortunate to come away with a point. But yeah, coming from a winning position in the last few minutes of extra time, you cannot be dropping points at that point in the game. Game management has got to be a hell of a lot better. For me, kind of like I said previously, the biggest problem was defence and our sort of midfielders while they were defending, not getting tight enough to the Arsenal forwards. We were allowing them way too much space. And then when we did kind of close them down, we were going in for kind of soft tackles. I've said this before on the show, I don't know how many times, I hate a limp leg tackle. You go in with your full body. At that point of the game, I don't care about how tired you are. You should be sort of running on adrenaline almost at that point. You've got to put your whole body, you've got to put everything you've got left on the line. And unfortunately, that just didn't seem to really happen. Absolutely can't take away anything from that finish because it was insane, but should never have been in that position to score. That was really on the kind of, I think Zellum and Ladd both kind of put in half-assed tackles really there. And like I mentioned earlier, the players, our defence were just getting turned. Every time Arsenal had the ball around the edge of our box, it looked so dynamic, and defensively we just didn't know what to do. We weren't tracking players, we weren't staying tight with them, and it just gave the Arsenal forwards so much time. I think that's why Leslie, to be fair, looked like she had kind of such a good game, because she was allowed so much time around the outside of the box. Any time an Arsenal player had the ball there, I was freaking out, to be honest with you. So for me, that was one of our biggest issues. There were some big kind of blocks going in towards the end. But when you're in that point of extra time, you've just got to manage that game a little bit better. There were a few occasions where I think Galton had dropped deep kind of to defend, but then when she sort of won the ball back, she almost didn't know what to do with it. The defending was very frantic. It didn't seem like anyone was kind of taking charge of the team and going like, right, okay, like we need to just calm it down here. At that point, could we have brought on someone else, literally just for some fresh legs? Throw anyone on and just get them chasing that ball down, getting in tight to players, kind of hitting players hard just to kind of break up the play a little bit, and then progressing the ball forward. Even if you have to take it to the corner flag, we didn't even have the chance to kind of take it to the corner flag and run down the clock or anything like that, because there just wasn't a moment of calm in that kind of extra time portion of the match. So for me, that's something else that needs looking at, probably the game management and how we kind of see out games like that, where we've not been the better team at all, but we're in a position where we've got lucky almost and we are winning. We've got to be able to finish games like that.
I am tempted to agree. There's a few things coming out here. Got a frog in my throat, sorry. Highlane saying someone needs to ask the question about the midfield. It's got to be a reason why every time makes changes. That central midfield is the one area he absolutely will not touch. Maybe you've got your answer just in the question. Sporty there saying, any concerns given the number of clean sheets kept last season? 2 matches with 3 goals conceded this season. I mean, to be fair, it's only 2 games, we've still got about 9 more goals to go until we concede as many as we did last season. So I think when we get to that point, I am going to have to bring this up because she's put it now 3 times. Ford should have got a pen. No, she shouldn't. She definitely did not foul, or get fouled rather, in the box. The ball was got. So there we go. Guerrero wasn't on the bench. Exactly my point. I don't know if she was fit or what was going on. Skinner had said there are only 2 people that are out for the game. Guerrero's name wasn't on that list, but then she didn't make the bench. So who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe somebody should talk about that. To Mr. Skinner and Highlane saying, bear in mind that we signed Lisa Nielsen for a pretty sizable amount, 180 grand, he thinks, and yet she doesn't seem to be able to touch the pitch even when she's available. I don't know, but I'm sure they have their reasons. Megan, for you, obviously, it was a rather exciting, not biased. If I'd have thought it was a penalty, I'd have said it, and I don't think it was. Like, genuinely, she got the ball first. It would have been a very, 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 very soft penalty. That's all I'm saying. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I'm being biased. Ask Meg. I'm one of the most unbiased people ever. I would genuinely, if I felt it was, I would have said so. I'm not just winding you up. But yeah, Megan, you must have been absolutely delighted. And again, the fact that you guys were cheering for a point, Mark Skinner saying that shows just how far we have come, that people are quite content to come to LSV and get a point. Highlane put earlier on, we can't call it proof of progress when we drop points in a fixture where we picked up all 3 last season, but all 6 technically last season. But when we when we look at it and analyse it properly, these games against the top four, the big games, you're never going to beat them every single season. There's always going to be nuances in the result. A draw against Arsenal can never be seen as a bad result. Do you find that as an Arsenal fan, you are in that situation of saying that actually a draw against Manchester United can never really be seen as a bad result as well?
Yeah, I'd completely agree. I think Man U have come on that far that, yes, you know, you finished above us last season. Obviously, that kind of speaks for itself. And, you know, we can't be mad. And what's this? No pen. No, I mean, I think initially I think I shouted penalty, but but then she did get the ball. But now I think, I mean, if we had beat Liverpool last week, I probably would have, you know, been expecting to go and get the win last night, but I just wanted more than 0 points, really. You know, a point would have been absolutely fine for me. I think for me, it was more, you know, the performance that I wanted to see. And obviously we got a point along with that as well. But I mean, I knew we were going to get another goal, but I didn't think it was going to be a moment of magic like it was from Lacasse. I mean, there's a goal of the season contender right there already. Sorry, McCabe. I know you want to score another goal of the season, but no, I think it kind of reminded me of the Georgia Stanway's goal in the Euros last year against Spain in the quarterfinals, where no one really came towards her. Everyone kind of seemed scared to come near her when she had the ball, and she just had too much space and just opened her body and just struck the ball. And it just kind of reminded me of that. No one kind of really wanted to come to Lacasse and try and get the ball off her. And, you know, she had the time, she had the space, and just into the top corner it went. It was absolutely beautiful. I think I screamed my head off.
And I would have too, to be honest with you. And in fact, I did. What I will remember is that the minute the 6 minutes came up, watchers of this channel will realise that when I went 6, and that was exactly how I was feeling, because I felt 6. I can just see it happening. I've got to be honest, there was a point where I thought you were going to nick it and make it 3-2, and I would have. Well, again, the remote control would have gone through the telly once again. So there we are. I suppose really I'm going to have to ask the question of all three of you then, mainly because I need a filler whilst I'm trying to find what's gone on with the player of the match. So it's gone, it's disappeared. I voted and now I can't see it anymore. So I'm going to go and have a look at that. And whilst I'm doing that, if you just like to go around in a nice orderly line, were you happy with the result and why? We'll start with you, Jess.
I don't know. It's like I said, no, because we were 2-1 up with a few minutes to go. Whilst I think it was fair, no. You know, it's simple. I'm not happy.
Then goes Megan, go around.
Sorry. Yes, purely for, you know, for the opposite reason. United were, you know, winning with minutes to go. So yes, I was happy. If you had asked me, you know, I'm not always going to be happy with the draw against United, but last night I was, and I think it was a fair result.
It's a no from me, Barry. Like I said before, I just think you've got to say again.
Is it all right, Simon Cowell? Buzzer out, shall we?
No, yeah. I think when you're in that winning position, you know, you've got to see the game out. And look, there's a lot of people saying, you know, we didn't play well, but you know, how many times or how many matches have we all seen over, you know, various seasons where we've not played well and we've got wins? You know, hallmark of a great team is grinding out a win when you're not at your best. Yes, we weren't at our best yesterday, but yeah, it's still 2 points dropped. I don't care whether, you know, you're absolutely dreadful. I'd take a dreadful 1-0 win if it meant we win. You know, I don't care too much about sort of how we play as long as we're picking up them important points against, you know, sort of rivals. But hey ho, we've dropped 2 points. We need to react and go again.
Absolutely. Paul, lovely to see you and your hatred of Mark Skinner back on the channel. As you well know, we allow all opinions on this channel, so do feel free. You have not managed to roll me up just yet, but I can feel it bubbling. Sport is correct. I think Arsenal were better over the 90 minutes. I feel like that's a point gained for me, based on the performance. Having said that, I did feel like we were the favourites, and it actually annoyed me we're going in as the favourites, because I think when we're not the favourites, we tend to do a bit better. Now, there was a question that's just popped up that I actually quite liked, so I'm going to ask you this one as well, because I think it does work. High Lanes, but question for us all: what would be the best result for us, so that's both clubs, in terms of the City Chelsea game tomorrow? So you could just throw in your prediction league answers that you've given, or you could be a little bit more in depth with it. Jess, what would you have put? And this basically means you've got, but no, you can't vote anymore because Connor's actually ended it. I can see that there now. So well done, Connor. That spoiled that last little bit there. You three just crack on, and then I'll reveal the results of the poll.
I'm just having a quick look to see what I actually put on the predictions league, because it was a few days ago and my memory is not that good. For me, though, I reckon that the better result would actually probably be City to win, because I can't see Chelsea dropping too many points throughout the season, whereas I do think City are more likely to kind of bottle a couple of games, for lack of a better word. I put Chelsea to win 2-0. So that's what I think the actual result is going to be, apparently, or what I thought the result was going to be a few days ago. But yeah, I'm hoping probably a City win on that.
I think looking at the table, I mean, ideally probably a draw as an Arsenal fan, but I wouldn't be mad if City got the win, because, you know, Chelsea aren't going to drop too many points this season. If they drop them to Man City, then, because I think City will go and drop points elsewhere that we might not expect them to. So yeah, basically anything but a Chelsea win, really. But I would always say that if anyone's playing Chelsea. So yeah.
And Matt?
I'm going to go a draw. I don't like to say City win just because it's City, and I don't like to say Chelsea win because it's Chelsea. So I think a draw for me suits me. Don't want to really see any winners from it. I think, you know, in the long run, it'll suit us, and see if Chelsea drop more points elsewhere. What's Connor saying there? Chelsea win. Yeah. No, I still think a draw. Just cancel each other out.
I think I'd love the draw. The draw will be good, because if my mathematics are correct, that means then that neither side can be above us other than by goal difference. So that would be lovely. So that's what I think I'm going to go for. Okay, City. I think that's it there. But if you pause it, you'll catch it. So there you go. Where's the grumpy cat meme saying, I hope they both lose? Well, we have had some people here. 5 ACL injuries each will be the best result. Probably not wishing ACLs on people, I feel, but I get where you're going with that one.
I've been through enough with that.
So there we go. It's quite possible. But yes, draw. Cance was out last night. That's exactly where we are. So let's get some player of the match poll. I have the results in here. Gabby George only got 11% of the vote, so Connor is going to feel vindicated in his. I would be intrigued to have seen how many of you would have voted for Malard had she been there. So she's coming fourth, but Connor will be pleased because she did get a vote, and she does love it when everybody gets a vote. Leah Galton, third place with 20%. There was 2% in it, which I think is basically one vote. And it's between Millie Turner and Lucia Garcia. I can confirm she was the runaway leader from the start. So Garcia pulled it back, but it was Millie Turner. So Millie Turner is the Orth United WFC player of the match. And I had a feeling you were Annabelle. Oh, come back. Had a feeling you were Annabelle and April having a giggle. So, what have we got left to talk about? Not a lot. I've just got a few things I need to say. Before I do, Meg, I know you do your journalism work, so how about you just give that a quick shout out first? Where can people find you if they wanted to hear more of your radical views about Arsenal?
Thanks for that. Yeah, Twitter. I'm always on Twitter trying to do as much as I can for WSL full time that Dan Penlett runs at the minute. Still on the job hunt at the minute, which is, you know, not fun, but we'll get there. But no, yeah, I'm always on Twitter. So whether you agree with my opinions or not, oh well. But yeah, I'm always on Twitter.
Absolutely good. Yes, absolutely. This is United's player of the match. It's not the player of the whole game. But if we were to do a poll for player of the match for Arsenal, we'll just do a quick straw poll here amongst the three of us. I would have gone for D'Angelo. Who would you have gone for, Jess?
Oh, yeah, second that. Fantastic player. Really helped with a couple of goals there.
Matt, D'Angelo for you?
Yeah, there's a couple of quality assists, which is more than can be said for our players.
Okay, so we think D'Angelo. Can you confirm or deny this? And can you also tell us who you genuinely think would have been the Arsenal player of the match?
I actually did think Russo had a really good game. I probably would go Russo, you know, or Black Senius, but I do think Russo or Kim Little. I think Kim Little had a very captain's performance, you know, playing out of position. I think she had a really good game. And answering that question, yes, I was.
There you go, which we expected. That's why we get her on. Only the best guests make it on to All for United WFC, and that is probably a bit below the belt, but I found it funny, so I put it out there.
I don't know if they're on about United PSG. I assume they're on about United PSG, but
I mean, yeah, me too.
United might not make it any further, so then, you know, we're both out of the Champions League. So
Which will
That's
probably
the big problem that we've got. So that's why I've been very quiet on Twitter currently. So yeah, there you go. Matt, again, lovely to have had you on. So thank you very much for joining us. Where can people find you should they wish to find out more about you and your efforts at FC United?
Yeah, just Twitter. Still getting to grips with the season at FC, so I try not to tweet too much, especially after a game because emotions run high. But yeah, WSL chat, a little bit of FC United chat as well, coaching work there. So yeah, Twitter name is on screen as well.
Excellent. And Jess, when you're not in the middle of a van trying to rip its insides out and put other stuff there, where can people find you?
on Twitter, although I very rarely tweet, to be honest. So you just have to stay and wait for those little nuggets of wisdom that do come out probably once a week. If anything has really riled me up enough, I might tweet about it. But yeah, it's a rare occasion, to be honest. I'm one of them. I just sit and scroll. I see everything, comment on nothing.
That's pretty much where I try and live with it nowadays. Talking just gets you into so much trouble. So there you are. Well done. Listen, Arsenal fans, you've come in. You've been absolutely delightful. Thank you for popping in and for being respectful. That's what we do. We just like to have a good chat, nice bit of banter. It's all love. Whilst you're here, if you could, it would be really wonderful if you could pop onto Instagram or Twitter, whichever one you like, wherever you like to go, really. But we've been nominated for the Football Content Awards. It's the last time I'm going to talk to you about this because tomorrow at midnight, it ends. There's no more. You can't vote after that, at which point I won't care anymore until we find out what's going on. So Connor will care. I don't. Whatever. It's great. It's lovely that we're here. It's nice to be here. There you go. Typical Man United thoughts. Nice to be here. So if you'd like to vote for us, that'd be lovely. If you just pop onto Instagram, you can find them under the Football Content Awards. If you find us, we are under the Best in Women's Football Creator category. And if you would like to get in there and just literally just tag us at All for United WFC, that would be wonderful. That gives us a little tick and another little point and a little vote. So if you enjoy what you've been watching here, please go and do that. If you haven't enjoyed what you've been watching here, please send all emails to connor.roberts@wedontreallycare.com, and that would be lovely. So there you go. That's the FCA sorted out. If you're part of our predictions league and you didn't send your predictions in before 7:30 yesterday, number one, why would you not do that? That's
sorry.
stupid. But the good news is you've only missed one game. There's still 5 more to go. So if you can get those in before midday tomorrow, on this occasion, we'll let you off and we will get those in as well. I know that Connor jested earlier on that I'm not nice to him even when he's on his deathbed. He's not on his deathbed. He's just got a cold. But genuinely, he's not been well. So, of course, we hope you will be back on Monday. If not, people have got to put up with me for 3 shows on the trot, and I don't think the world is ready for that just yet. Speaking of shows, I've literally got to bounce because I'm going over to the other channel, All for United, the men's channel, where we'll be discussing the 2-1 win that Manchester United just had against Brentford. So if you just haven't had enough of me, come and join us over there in 5 minutes. If you have had enough of me, watch us tomorrow and you can get your little dose then. Oh dear.
I'm not saying anything about that.
Well, I promised myself I wasn't going to end on the song, but you brought it up now, so who knows? Anyway, listen, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back on Monday where we'll be previewing the PSG UWCL match, which, let's be honest, none of us ever really expected to be having. So, Mark Skinner, you're a legend in my eyes for that very reason, and we'll see you all on Monday.